Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are completely rethinking what it actually takes to save a massive portion of your income. You know, when we hear about somebody stashing away a huge chunk of their paycheck, we immediately assume it's a story about miserable deprivation, right? Or just some kind of superhuman discipline. But as we're going to explore today, treating aggressive saving as a test of willpower is exactly why most people completely fail at it. Instead, we are going to look at an infallible, honestly kind of boring, but wildly effective mathematical system, because it's not about motivation, it's just about math.
Okay, let's dive right into this. 35%. Now, if you're currently saving maybe 5%, or let's be real, maybe nothing at all, hearing that number probably makes you a little skeptical. It sounds extreme. It sounds impossible, especially if you aren't making some massive six-figure salary. And I totally get that skepticism. The reflexive reaction is almost always, well, that must be nice for someone with no bills, or, yeah, that requires magic. But the truth, it requires neither misery nor magic. It literally just requires arithmetic. And as our sources point out, arithmetic doesn't care about the size of your salary. This 35% number only sounds impossible until you actually see the underlying architecture that supports it.
So the main reason we fail to save 35%, or anything at all really, is because we rely on the failing default approach, which is saving whatever happens to be left over at the end of the month. The huge problem there? There is almost never anything left over. This is Parkinson's law applied directly to our money. Our spending just naturally and very quietly expands to fill whatever income is available. It's like a gas filling a room. The winning system totally flips this equation. It's paying yourself first. It's the act of automatically removing that money before it can ever be seen, wanted, or spent.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by debunking the willpower myth, then walk through the 6-step framework: tracking your dollars, automating savings, cutting big expenses, treating savings as a bill, and finally, budgeting and scaling. And the absolute beauty of this framework is that it scales perfectly up or down, whether you're bringing in $35,000 or $100,000.
All right, let's jump into section 1, the willpower myth. This is all about motivation versus math.
We absolutely have to discard this idea that saving money is some noble character trait. Willpower is a finite resource, guys. If you build a system that requires you to manually make a disciplined, self-denying choice every single day for years on end, your budget is going to collapse. Nobody's willpower survives that. Saving has to be the default, not a daily negotiation. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why this system always beats the salary. Let's compare two people from our source material. First, we have Daniel, making $78,000 a year. He drives a newer car, eats out, lives in a nice building, but his savings rate hovers right around the national average of 4%. Then there's Karen, making just $35,000 a year, but she has automated a 40% savings rate. Fast forward 10 years, and Karen's net worth is going to completely pass Daniel's. Actually, scratch that, she's going to lap him. Not because she earns more, she obviously doesn't. She wins because the wealth gap isn't about the size of the paycheck. It's about the percentage of the paycheck that never gets the chance to become lifestyle creep. Daniel's money naturally expands to fill his life. Karen's is captured by a system.
Moving on to section 2. This is step 1 of our framework: track every dollar. We've got to find those silent leaks. Now, this is the unglamorous but absolutely crucial first step of the whole system. Before you change a single habit, before you cut a single cost, you literally just need to gather hard data for 30 straight days. I absolutely love this quote: "You cannot fix what you cannot see." When you actually sit down and track your spending on a spreadsheet for 30 days, you discover the silent leaks. It's death by 1,000 cuts. It's suddenly realizing you spent $400 in a single month on food delivery apps, or $90 on 6 different random subscriptions you completely forgot you even had. Individually, these purchases feel totally normal, which is exactly why you never notice them. But seeing that hard data written down in black and white, it provides the exact shock you need to fuel the rest of this entire process.
Section 3. Step 2. Automate your savings. This is where we remove the human element entirely.
Automating your savings is the true architectural secret of this entire method. It shouldn't feel like a motivational struggle, it should feel like background plumbing. Here is exactly how that 35% gets routed on payday, entirely automatically, within minutes of your paycheck landing. Check out this breakdown. 15% goes straight into a retirement or investment account, like a low-cost index fund. 10% goes over to a high-yield savings account for an emergency fund, and then another 10% routes to a separate account for future goals, like a house down payment or travel. That is 35% of your income split 3 ways, vanishing from your checking account before you even have a chance to log into your banking app, see the cash, and rationalize keeping it.
The decision is made exactly once and the system just runs.
Section 4. Step 3. Cut big expenses. We need to focus on where the big money actually is.
Step 3 is where we actually find the cash to fund those automated transfers we just talked about. We have to ruthlessly cut the big expenses. You know, a lot of standard financial advice tells you to stop buying a daily latte if you want to get rich. But honestly, cutting tiny little joys doesn't move the needle anywhere near as effectively as attacking your largest expenses by just 10%. You need to focus your energy where the actual money is. Now, what's really interesting here is how radical choices in these 3 specific categories change the entire math of your life. Housing, transportation, and food. These are the 3 biggest levers. For housing, maybe it means downsizing to a smaller shared space to drop your rent from 30% of your income down to 19%. For food, it means keeping a tight rotation of simple, standardized meals so you avoid expensive decision fatigue. But transportation? Transportation is the one people underestimate the most. In our source material, deciding to ride a $60 secondhand bike and taking the bus rather than financing a used sedan with the insurance and gas and everything else saved roughly $400 to $600 a month. Over 3 years, that one single choice built $15,000 of net worth. That is not just spare change. That is a massive foundational wealth builder for sure.
Okay, Section 5. Step 4. Savings as a bill. Get ready for a major psychological shift.
This is arguably the most critical psychological breakthrough in this entire explainer. We have to entirely reframe how we perceive the very act of saving. Think about it. Would you just skip paying your rent because you didn't really feel like it this month? Of course not, right? You don't negotiate with yourself over whether to pay the electric bill either. But for years, most of us have treated savings as this optional thing, something we only do if there just happens to be a little extra money lying around.
The massive shift happens when you adopt this new definition. Your savings transfer must become a non-negotiable, mandatory fixed cost. You have to treat it exactly like a monthly utility bill. When you redefine savings as a fixed cost, the emotional friction just vanishes. You don't ask yourself, should I save this month? Any more than you ask if you should pay your landlord. The payment just happens, and your food and entertainment budgets are forced to fit around whatever is left.
Finally, Section 6, Steps 5 and 6, Budget and Scale. Let's talk about managing what's left.
Steps 5 and 6 are all about budgeting that remaining 65% of your income efficiently and then scaling the whole system up, all without resorting to a miserable, joyless existence. To do this, you literally have to give every single remaining dollar a specific job using a really simple, zero-based budgeting approach. If you leave money unassigned, it will quietly wander off and disappear. But here's the real secret to making sure this system doesn't just collapse in 90 days like a crash diet. You must budget for joy. Our source highlights creating a 5% freedom fund out of your income. This is money you are allowed to spend on absolutely anything, guilt-free, no spreadsheets required. Deciding in advance exactly how much joy you are allowed to have is what makes the other 95% of the system sustainable for years. It turns the whole process from feeling like a restriction into feeling like an intentional, powerful choice.
Let's see how this builds over time, because you really shouldn't try to just jump to 35% overnight. That would feel like punishment. Instead, use what we call the savings escalator. You can start at just 1% or 5% in year 1. But every single time you get a raise or a bonus, you increase your automated savings percentage before you ever let yourself increase your lifestyle spending. So if you get a 5% raise, awesome. Push 3% into savings and let your lifestyle only creep up by that remaining 2%. You scale up gradually. And because you are saving money you never actually got used to spending in the first place, you literally never feel deprived.
So the crucial point here is that you don't need a finance degree or some rare superhuman discipline to pull this off. You just need this simple 6-step framework. Track your money for 30 days. Automate the transfers so you never have to think about them again. Cut the big 3 expenses: housing, transportation, and food. Treat your savings as a mandatory, incredibly boring bill. Give every dollar a job so you still have plenty of room for guilt-free fun. And use that escalator to grow your savings rate over time. It is a one-time setup that lays the plumbing. Once those pipes are laid, time and compound interest are going to do all the heavy lifting for you.
I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Take out your phone right now, look at your current take-home pay, and multiply it by 0.35. Now that number might look huge. It might even make you a little uncomfortable because it exposes how much of your current paycheck is just being absorbed by a lifestyle you probably never even intentionally chose. But ask yourself, what does that number look like if you let it compound over the next 10 years? Stop waiting for some magical future income that will suddenly make saving easy. Build the percentage today, automate the whole shebang, and realize the immense life-changing potential hiding inside the paycheck you already have. Thanks so much for watching.